Hey guys, I'm having some fun here today. I got 300,000 kilometers almost on my car, and that's the original water pump I'm looking at right there. And it actually, when I put a mechanic stethoscope on the water pump, I was hearing a bit of a rattling, and I heard put the mechanic stethoscope on the water pump, the hose connector here, the lower rad hose connector. Anyway, you can hear a lot of rattling through that hose. Pulling lightly, gently back and forth on the housing here, it made the noise get louder and softer. So it is the water pump bearing probably starting to go. This is the original water pump in the car. I've got the records from the original owner, and this is the original water pump, so it's time for it to go. And first thing we're going to do is going to degrease around where the water pump is, because I don't want any of the crap from the bolts getting in. I don't want to change my fluid either. I just changed my fluid and put 40-50 bucks worth of Mercedes coolant in there, so I'm going to be saving the coolant that I just put in 2 weeks ago. I'm going to be draining it out through the lower drain hole and saving that. So anyway, first thing I'm going to do is clean the engine around the water pump. I think I should take this into the doctor's office and tell him I've got a sample for him. This is the Mercedes-Benz coolant. It's piss yellow, nice and warm. It's kind of nasty actually. Anyway, still just draining the water out of the car. The coolant out. You're gonna lose some, but you don't want to lose it all. I'm gonna try and light this as much as I can in one of my normal gloomy, dimly lit videos. Before you pull the belt off, you're gonna want to remove the 4 10mm bolts on the pulley, on the water pump pulley. You know, obviously the belt's going to hold it there for you. So remove these 4 bolts, and then we're going to pull the belt off. Okay, 4 10mm bolts out of pulley. We'll just pull off once we pull the pump off, or sorry, once we pull the belt off. The belt, you pull this off, you loosen this through the tensioner. The belt tensioner is, there's supposed to be a cover on this to protect the bearing. Mine flew the coop a couple of weeks ago. They do shatter and crack. They're brittle plastic. I have to get a new one. I had a half one on there for the longest time. But anyway, just simply take a 15mm socket and turn it counterclockwise, and that will loosen the pressure on the belt. Actually, I can pull it off one hand probably there. Whoop, slipped it off. Remember your belt routing before you take it off. You know, make a good note of it. Just draw a little picture on something if you don't know which way it goes, because I've seen people actually, it can go on 2 or 3 different ways the wrong way, and it won't work. You'll get belt squeal, but it will turn everything, and it'll turn all your accessories, but you'll just get a loose belt and belt squeal. So just make sure your belt's on properly, and make sure to check the routing before you take it off. And back in a few minutes. Okay. Now the pulley's off, and I've cleaned it as good as possible around the pump. You're going to want to remove the 2 hoses, the lower rad hose here, just a simple hose clamp, and remove that one, and then this one on top here that goes up to the thermostat housing, that hose, and then there's a series of 10mm bolts all around it, and be back in a second. Okay, your water pump bolts are all going to be different lengths. So as you pull them out, what I just did was I drew a little, I don't know if you can see it because I drew it in pencil, a little diagram of the water pump. So I know where I started. I started at number 1 here, right on top of the lower rad hose hookup. So that's number 1. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way around. And as I take them out, I'm just going to put them in this piece of cardboard. I punch some holes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all the way around, so I know which one is which as I'm putting them back in. Like I said, simply a 10mm socket to take them out. So I'm going to pull all those out and not bore you with watching me take out some bolts, because that is kind of boring. Okay, as we're going around in the circle clockwise, the last 2 bolts at the very bottom on the left side, and the one right under the water pump, the top rad hose housing extension. Those are both 13s, so you've got 6 10mm bolts and 2 13s, and we have the last 2 to pull out, and then we're going to pull the pump off. Okay, did a final check, make sure all the water pump bolts are out, and as I said, they are all different lengths, hence the cardboard little map as to where they're going back in. So this top rad hose here that goes to the to the thermostat housing, this top rad hose here, this is going to be probably pretty hard to get off without pulling the pump. So once, just loosen this, and once you pull the pump off, you'll be able to twist that out of there and get that off. And let's see how loose it is. It's that loose. There's all that coolant that you're going to lose, but kind of unavoidable. Kind of pisses me off that I'm doing this just a couple weeks after changing all my fluid. Anyway, oh sorry, one last thing. There's one more rad hose at the back of where the upper rad hose is. There's one more hose that goes to the I think that's the pump for the residual heat inside the car when the car's off. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Anyway, unhook that as well. So you've got the 3 hoses to unhook. Back in a second. Well, sometimes when your hunch is that it's the water pump, sometimes you're wrong. And sometimes you're right. Listen to this sucker. Nasty. That would have failed. God knows how long. I mean, some of them I've seen them go for ages making that noise. But anyway, it was the right choice pulling the sucker off today, because it could have happened. It could have failed tomorrow. So it looks like there's a little bit of the gasket material that's left somewhere on the engine, and we're going to clean that off. That's all that's good for now. So there's the water pump housing. Oh, look at that. You can see a little bit of scoring down there. I wonder what that's from. Right here. That's odd. It wouldn't have been from the pump. That's not, must have been something from the factory. I don't even know if you're even seeing that. Probably not, because I'm an idiot. Anyway, there's the water pump opening. So we're just going to take a rag and some solvent and clean this off. Make sure there's no gasket or gasket sticky. Someone could have used adhesive in the past. I don't think so. This is the original pump as far as I know, and according to the guy's service records, it's never been changed, or there wasn't a record for it being changed anyway. No one's used any gasket sealant on this. It looks original. So this is going to be nice and easy, and I'm just going to clean this off nice and smooth, and then we're going to proceed with putting in the new pump. Okay, here's the new pump, and someone's going to ask, so I'll explain it now. There is no hose that connects over here. This is a bearing. When the bearing seal goes, it should weep coolant past this and leak coolant, and it'll drip out, and that's basically how you know your bearing's gone. But they're on the factory cars too. I know it's got like a nipple on it. It looks like there's supposed to be a hose on it, and possibly from the factory there was a drain hose to route the coolant back down to the splash pan or something. But it's nothing but a weeping hole in case it went for when the bearing goes. When the bearing goes and it wears through the bearing seal and water starts dripping out, I mean, it's one of the indicators you need a new water pump. But anyway, this is the new pump. I'm going to put the gasket on and install it in 2 minutes. Okay, so now we're ready to put the new pump back in, or new pump in. Make sure to tighten the hose clamps on the hose going up to the thermostat housing, and the smaller one on the rear. I'm just straightening this one out. It wasn't quite straight on there. The small one on the rear where the upper rad hose attaches, because they're kind of a bitch to get to once the pump is all the way in. And you know, weaseling this short length of hose onto that once it's all done. So this hose and this hose, put them on, tighten the hose clamps, and take your new gasket, make sure you've got it lined up in the correct direction, which way it's going to go on the pump, and gently slide it in back. We've already cleaned off all the surfaces. And now we're going to take bolt number 2, which is the second one, the middle one here. That one right there is the longest bolt. put that through the gasket. And the first bolt, which is also a long one, we're going to slip that through the gasket to locate the gasket so it's not flopping all over behind on us. And then I can gently put number 2 bolt in to its hole, and number 1 bolt into its hole. Get in there. Start threading those in. Don't tighten them yet. Go around the entire pump 1 bolt at a time and make sure each one of them is actually going through the gasket, that your gasket's not sticking out anywhere. And put the bolts through and get them hand threaded in. Don't tighten any of them until they're all in there and lined up, because you won't be able to line it up with if you tighten them up one at a time. Drag down. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you probably don't want to watch me go around the pump putting bolts in. So I will put all these back in and be back in a second. Okay, pump's on, bolts are all tightened up. A word on tightening these bolts. Finger tight all of them all the way around by finger, and then start tightening them little by little from one side directly opposite, and then one of the top ones and one of the bottom ones, and just kind of crisscross back and forth until you get them all tightened to about 20 to 25 pound-feet of torque. I didn't put a torque wrench on them. I've been doing this long enough, I don't need a torque wrench. It's not bragging, I've just been doing it a long time. They're a little bit tighter than a spark plug. They are not lug nuts. I don't know how many times I have to say that to some people, because I've worked on cars where you need a cheater bar to get a Phillips head screw out because someone has tightened it so tight. This just needs to be tight, not force of the gods tight. I don't know how to explain how not very tight it has to be. Anyway, like a spark plug, you don't want to strip it. You're bolting into a I think the block on this is aluminum, not 100% sure, but don't tighten them too much. Anyway, you can look online and find the torque specs. Maybe I'll find them and put them in the video if I remember to. So all the rad hoses are hooked up again. We're going to refill with coolant. Don't forget to pull a little plastic protective cap off of the end. This is for screw-on fans, I guess. For some applications might have a screw-on fan that's attached to the water pump. On this car, it doesn't, obviously. It's got the little fan pulley, an electric fan. A little water pump pulley. So we're going to put the pulley back on, tighten the 10 mil nuts on here finger tight, because once you get the belt on, then it'll be tight. It'll hold the pulley there, so you'll be able to tighten them up. And refill with coolant. That's about it. I'll be back in a second once this is all done. Okay, now I've refilled the car with coolant, belt back on, started it, and I'm checking for leaks. And hoping to God I don't find any, because you know what? Every once in a while they do happen. Like shit, leaks happen. And this engine is a hell of a lot quieter now. Because I'm missing the cover on the tensioner pulley there, I'm going to actually spray a little bit of grease in there to keep, just in case water gets in there. The cover is just to keep water out. There's the air injection pump is off. And it is a lot quieter. Like I said, I'm gonna put some grease on there to keep water from getting in and getting on the bearing of the tensioner pulley. But once you got it started and you're refilling it, you're just gonna sit there, squeeze the hoses until you're getting water flow. I'm just gonna leave the cap open on the reservoir. Leave the cap open and just keep filling until you're getting full heater hoses and your reservoir is at the normal level. Remember, use distilled water and Mercedes coolant only. And I don't know what else to tell you. Well, anytime you've drained your rad mostly and you're refilling it, turn your heater on, turn the temperature to high, and turn the fan to speed 1. Doesn't matter. As long as the temperature inside the car, the heater temperature is on high, that'll allow the coolant to circulate inside the heater core, and Make sure you have no air bubbles. So you can also squeeze, like I said, squeeze the rad hoses once there's pressure in them. Make sure the air gets out. The air will pop out to the highest point, which is the reservoir. The air will always work its way. Bubbles will float up to the highest point, which is the reservoir cap. So just squeeze around, squeeze the hoses, make sure everything's not leaking. And we have no leaks. I see no drips, and everything is good. So thanks for watching.